So you mentioned something about you mentioned the word scared or afraid or one of those things. Cancel culture is just so big right now. How do business leaders deal with that in the fear of being the next target of cancel culture when they're trying to address or fix something within their organization?
It's tough, right? I mean, we've seen it. I absolutely won't name any organizations, but people are trying to do the right thing. People saw the George Floyd incident and they said, "Hey, let's make a difference." And there's an organization that tried to make a big difference. I said, "Hey, let's let all of the group of people that look like this have a day off. Let's let them have a day off." And in retrospect, probably should have let the entire organization off for that day. But what they did was they tried to make a difference. And as you mentioned, cancel culture jumped on it immediately. You can't do that. That's not right. That's incorrect. Don't do it. You're not doing things properly. So the thing is, we have to make it a mindset where we have to understand that people are trying. And in business, you're going to get the good and the bad no matter what you do. If you're in business, we all know that there's not any good without having a little bit of bad. Someone's not going to like your product or your service, and that's okay. The thing is to make sure that we have people out there that are trying to make a difference. So you're going to make mistakes. Everybody hired a diversity officer at the same time. Mm-hmm. You look at February, March timeframe, and you go, if there was I don't know if there's a number there, but there's got to be a site that shows how many of these diversity officers have all of a sudden been hired because people are trying to make a quick correction. Is quick correction the right way to go all the time? Absolutely not. But it shows that you understand there's an issue. At some point, you're listening to someone and you're doing what you believe to be best to make a difference. And I think the end game of that will be someone from that community that you're trying to help will speak up and say, look, we understand it didn't come out the right way, but they're trying to do what's right. And what happens is you get those groups of people that might not know what they're doing is correct, but they're trying to make a difference together. And then we see the collaboration and you start to form these groups and to put out an agenda to say, hey, we know this is wrong. We're going to address it. And you become a lot more powerful of an entity. And then you kind of start to drown out some of those people from the cancel culture that say, hey, this is wrong.
Right. Well, I mean, not to. And if you had a workforce plan to have a diverse workforce, then maybe you wouldn't even be in that position to begin with, because you would have some diversity say, hey, this might not be a good idea. And so challenge one that I have for today is go out and embrace the uncomfort and the discomfort of being more inclusive and experiencing diversity. And the other is to the business leaders out there is to go out and hire for your weaknesses, offset those weaknesses, stop hiring people just like you. We joke around with my team that sometimes my teammates, they get on my last nerves. But the thing about it is it works because we think differently. So if I'm going out there trying to be going as fast as I can, I have my business partners tell me, yo, Tim, pump the brakes, man. We got to slow this thing down. So hire to offset those weaknesses, and maybe you can avoid an uncomfortable or embarrassing situation.
Can I add to the story? And I know the company that you're talking about, but I think my dog is getting yelled at in the background. He's a puppy. So the narrative also changes in that, and it's also being pushed out by other people, by big media, by big tech that pushes stuff like that when it doesn't have the context. And that's what I love that word context, because I feel like context is missed. Someone was trying to, in that specific case, it sounds like, to do something good, right? To not do something bad. And yet we as a society allow this distraction of the whole story not being pushed out, that we get pushed out by a headline like, oh, so-and-so organization is bad, when actually the story should be, hey, so-and-so organization is doing something for the first time ever because they see a problem. And so we're so quick to tell a very negative story instead of actually even looking at it and being like, well, whoa. This is like a monumental milestone positive thing here. Yeah, they might have screwed it up a little bit, but let's stop like looking at it in such a negative thing. I mean, even like I saw this story recently where apparently a couple thousand people got the COVID vaccine overseas, and they're having some side effects to it. And the story is side effects happening to people who have gotten the vaccine.
Yep.
But then and that's the headline basically, right? So then you see that and you're like, oh, the vaccine's a bad thing, right? Then the actual story in there is that the two people who had the side effects always have side effects no matter what they take. So to me, that's not a story. That's not negative. Yet that's what we are pushing out and accepting as a society. The clicks, but again, that's what we allow to infect us. And then we push that out. So, oh my God, this is such a bad thing. And it doesn't have to be something about a bank on June 10th or something like that. It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be about a vaccine. It could be something as stupid as Ryan Lochte at the Olympics and the media not actually fact checking before something. And so, I think oftentimes we allow these organizations to dictate our thoughts before us even putting in some sort of context of our own behind it. And I think that's wrong. And I think if I was going to add something in there to your list, Tim, it would be, hey, just because you read something, maybe you should do a little bit of your own due diligence and understand what the real story is.
Yeah, no, and that's what we talked about earlier, guys, where as business owners, we have our champions come in, right? Because we're not going to control the free press, right? They say what they want to say, and that to some point you can say, hey, we're going to sue you. You can't do things like that. But for the most part, you get on Facebook and somebody tells a story and it gets picked up millions of times, and that's the headline without having any context. But what you do is that's where the inclusive piece comes in. I said it earlier. Your biggest champions are the people that are working for you. If you create an environment that they feel like they're a part of that culture, they see something in themselves in that organization, because they're the ones that are dealing with the people that are now outside of your organization holding up signs up and down or protesting in front of your business. Those people can say, wait a second, guys, I work with you every day. You come here every day. I'm going to tell you that that's not the case. And then you have a chance, you have more people on your side, as I mentioned earlier. There's a chance to say, here's a story that we're telling internally that's now spreading to the consumer.
And they'll push back against the negative side of that too. Exactly. Right. And so that could be the internal people, that could be champion customers. It's like, hey, if someone leaves this negative review or saying something negative, you're going to have that champion come in there and swoop in and say, fake news. Like, this is not the story. Like it's. So